Alright, so here is my management resource folder. I'll be going through and explaining it. For the first page, where I have my management philosophy, I would classify myself as a medium-low teacher because I think that students should have a lot of say, should have a lot of opportunities to share ideas, should have autonomy, hence the low part, but I also think that it should be a shared responsibility between teachers and students for the classroom to run smoothly. Now, most of my philosophy I'm drawing from researchers like Glasser, Kerben and Mendler, and Barbara Coloroso were the ones I identified with the most. And overall, I just think that teachers and students should share the responsibility to have the classroom run smoothly. And I think that as they do this, that both sides will feel enabled, that they'll be able to work as a team. And overall, I think the goal should be to engage students and give them a say while also retaining order and overall authority and control by a part of the teacher. Now, the next page is my Democratic Classroom foldable. Now, for here, I talked about the ways that I would set up a democratic classroom. The overall goal I would have would be to include students in the roles and responsibilities and decisions that go on in the classroom. I think that students, when they have a say, that they will be more engaged, that they'll be more motivated, and overall they'll just be more invested in their learning. So a few of the ways that I wrote in here to do that include things like having class jobs and giving students opportunities for leadership, giving them chances to share their ideas, to problem solve. Things like class meetings and rituals are fantastic for implementing this. And overall, I know these are mostly based on the kind of low control, giving students a lot of power, but I think it's really important to have students learn these skills, learn how to contribute so that they can be valuable members of a democratic society later in life. And overall, I think it just helps them become more invested in their learning. So, the next page is this motivation page. Now here I have included 5 specific strategies that I would use to keep students motivated. And just real quick, those are giving students choices, planning engaging lessons so that students don't get bored with what we're learning, so they'll still be enjoying what they're doing. I think that being an enthusiastic teacher is so important because, well, emotions, they are contagious, and if the teacher is enthusiastic, then the students will naturally become more enthusiastic and more motivated to learn. Now, these first points that I made are sort of based on Barbara Coloroso's theory, interdiscipline, and they're kind of focused on intrinsic motivation. However, I think that while intrinsic motivation is ideal, teachers should also realize that not all students will be equally intrinsically motivated. So I've also included these strategies of having clear expectations and holding students accountable for work. I think that no student wants to let their teacher down, and when students know exactly what's expected of them and when they're required to show a product of their learning, then they're going to be more motivated to stay engaged. Now, on these 2 pages, I've included both information on how I would set up rules and consequences, and overall, I think that rules should be positively stated. I think that they should be general and easy to follow, and the reason for this is because I think that students should be able to be responsible, to self-regulate, and I've included kind of the clear expectations aspect, that I think that teachers should go over what each rule looks like and what it sounds like, exactly what students should do, and then have students be accountable for those rules. And another big point I included here is that students and teachers should co-create rules. Kind of that idea that I went that I based my philosophy on, that students and teachers should both have a say, they should both have power, and that kind of goes back to these medium control theories, the Glasser, the Kervin and Mendler. And now going on to the prevention page. Now this one's a really important one to me because I think that almost all problems should be anticipated and solved through prevention. And my preventative strategies are mainly focused around two ideas, which are establish a positive environment and to set clear expectations for students. Now, I really drew on William Glasser's theory, which is non-coercive discipline, which stated that students have natural needs and that by meeting those needs, the teachers will avoid many behavioral issues. If students feel safe, if they feel loved, if they feel like they have a say, they have power, and that they can have fun in the classroom, they won't have a need to act out as much. And secondly, I included the need to have clear expectations. And I included some examples of exactly how I would teach procedures to teach these clear expectations to students so they know exactly what they should look like, what they should sound like, and I would hope that these procedures would quickly become routine so that students know how to behave, so that it's not difficult, they know exactly what to do, and they can prevent most misbehaviors because they know exactly what's expected. So when these preventative measures don't work, then teachers need to have ways to intervene when misbehaviors do occur. Now, my general approach to intervening is that I think teachers should first use the least punitive responses that are appropriate to the misbehavior and should reserve more extreme punishments for more extreme misbehaviors or as a last resort. So, for example, on these less serious misbehaviors, for example, if a student is distracted with an object, pretty minor, I would use situational assistance. Take away the distracting object, no punishment needed. But for a slightly more severe misbehavior, like if students are talking during instruction, then that would warrant a more mild response. Maybe a teacher look or a verbal reminder of what they should be doing. And then more severe or more chronic misbehaviors would result in a more punitive response from the teacher. So, for example, if a student pushes another student in line, then I might respond by removing privileges or by putting them in timeout so they can calm down. And I've also included arrows for these specific ones that it might be worth considering the reasons behind why the student is aggressive and ways to respond to that specific behavior, which again is more of a low control strategy. I think that it's important to consider why students are misbehaving and then adjust the response to the reason why the students are misbehaving. And finally, at the bottom of this page here, I have included how I will address bullying in my classroom. And I came up with three main ways. The first one is just to teach my students what constitutes bullying so they can recognize it when they see it. We do this through role-playing, through discussion, so that they would know. And then after they know what bullying looks like, then I would want to continue on discussing or role-playing how to respond. And that could be how to avoid, how to act in the moment, how to report to the teacher. And the last thing that I would do to address bullying is just try to overall establish a positive environment as a class and kind of create a feel of camaraderie between students. And I would use things like class rituals, class meetings, and just trying to teach empathy to students so that they feel less of a need to bully each other. Now, going on in here, the next page is my classroom map. I'll try to hold it up so it's a little more visible. Now, in this classroom map, I've included two main areas. I've included, in front of the main whiteboard here, a group seating instruction area, and I chose that type of seating because I feel like it fits my medium-low control philosophy, because I really value discussion-based and interactive collaborative learning. And then I've also included a second area over here by the second whiteboard where there is rug seating and a place for the teacher to sit. And that area I would use for when we want to gather together as a whole class, maybe for class meetings or circle time, or I could have students sit in rows to have more direct teacher-focused instruction when needed, if I didn't want any group interaction. So I've done that, and in addition, I've tried to include little pockets where students can have more individualized study when they feel like they need to have a little bit of focus, alone time, so that overall everyone can thrive. And then, finally, at the end, I've included my narrative for my classroom map, as well as some information about morning meetings and my personal philosophy paper, as well as a couple specific handouts that we got from class that I thought were useful. And there is my folder. Thanks for watching.